What's up, y'all? The opponents of black folks having anything, but especially reparations, like to say slavery was so long ago with no survivors still living today. So no reparations are owed to us. Man, listen. I recently posted a clip of a black woman in Glendora, Mississippi, who was literally a slave on a plantation until 1960. In the caption, I explained how this was the norm there, and that today, in 2022, people are still in indentured servitude, involuntary servitude there, due to debts that maybe they or maybe their ancestors accrued. People have died there in the 90s and early 2000s and went to their graves in service to white folks from inherited obligations, literally passed down from pre-1865 slavery. That goes without even speaking on the 100 years of Jim Crow, immediately following the Civil War, so-called Emancipation Proclamation, where they cut off our nuts, hung us from trees until our necks snapped. The red line and the redistricting and the discriminatory bank lending practices to make sure we remain poor and living amongst other poor people. That goes without saying, the unleashing of the scourge of crack cocaine upon us that government officials have admitted to. That goes without speaking of the bombing of Black Wall Street when we tried to have our own. That goes without speaking of the 1994 crime bill that set in motion mass incarceration, removing our fathers from our home for multiple decades. That Bill Clinton has admitted to, as much as you can expect a politician to admit to something. Not to mention, we ain't got our 40 acres in our mule. Man, listen, America has cut the check for much less trauma. The Marshall Plan, also known as the European Recovery Program, was a United States program providing aid to Western Europe following the devastation of World War II. It was enacted in 1948 and provided more than $15 billion to help finance rebuilding efforts in Europe. In 1988, Ronald Reagan signed into law the Civil Liberties Act. It officially apologized to the Japanese for holding them in internment camps during World War II and authorized the payment of $20,000 to each one of them who was still alive when the act was passed. The legislation also admitted that the government actions were based on race, prejudice, war hysteria, and a failure of political leadership, end quote. Altogether, the U.S. dispersed more than $1.6 billion, about $3.5 billion today, in reparation to the Japanese. The United States has provided Israel with $3 billion per year in grants since 1985. Since the end of World War II, the United States has provided Israel with $146 billion. In 2019, Donald Trump gave Israel $3.8 billion in military aid. 2015, Obama earmarked $12 million for Holocaust survivors. By the way, the Holocaust did not occur in the United States. Slavery did. Jim Crow did. Man, give me my 20 acres and a German Shepherd or something. Huh? Yeah, all right.